I'm going to try my best to keep this as short as possible because I have to go to work and I have things I gotta do today. Point is, I'm trying to use this video to explain what exactly the spiritual is. What are we talking about? What is this stuff? Like I mean, we don't really understand the mind, but let's assume that we understand the mind and we understand the body pretty well, right? Imagine a triangle, okay? One bottom edge of the triangle is the body. The other bottom edge of the triangle, mind. The top, that top of the triangle, is the spirit. What is spirit? What are we talking about? Translate the word spirit as awareness, as light, as consciousness, as love, as being, as that part of our cognition that allows us to bring clarity, or at least to like start to bring clarity into what we are perceiving. That is what I consider a good definition of what spirit is. And a lot of times that is consciousness because your mind can give you all these different stories that aren't real. And your body can also give you all these different stories through chemical reactions that aren't necessarily real but are more conditioned responses through trauma or whatever, or your own fear. Or because you're hungry that time or whatever, or you need to shit, you know? But the spirit consciousness is able to encapsulate all of that and at the same time bring spaciousness around it, the spaciousness of awareness and being and love around it and light around it. These are all the same. We're all talking about the same thing. Truth, purity. It's all the same thing. God, presence. It's all the same thing. Like in the world of the spiritual, like in this context, I believe that they are all the same thing. And so that's what spirituality is. That's what the spiritual is, in my opinion. When it comes to visions and non-ordinary states of consciousness that you can enter through so many different ways. You don't need substances to do this. You can do this through your breath, through visualizations, through ritual, through meditation, through being in nature for a long time, through sex, through giving birth, to experiencing a lot of grief. You can do this through so many different ways. Through drinking too much caffeine, like the human body is a wild machine. But entering altered states of consciousness are something that will happen to you if you have a daily consistent years long like long term spiritual practice. You will enter altered states of consciousness at some point. Those altered states of consciousness are not the point of a spiritual journey. They are the like carnival essentially that you see, that it's a reflection of your own unconscious mind being projected outward to the conscious mind as it is getting to know itself, as you are psychologically integrating yourself more and more on the way to full integration. So what does that mean? Full integration. So usually, I've talked to therapists about this and like asked them like, hey, like, what's your thoughts on dissociation? Because I notice people dissociate. I dissociate a lot. People who are more traumatized and have more PTSD symptoms, basically, tend to disassociate more than people that don't and are more, and this also has to do with like attachment styles. Point is that I notice people disassociate a lot, and it's a very common thing for human beings to disassociate. From a therapeutic point of view, it is normal to disassociate to some degree. To some degree, you need to be able to disassociate so that you can plan and remember and learn. And, a lot of your cognitive faculties have to do with dissociating out of your body and into a imaginary world that doesn't really exist and being able to abstract so you can use that abstract knowledge to then learn something. That's not what I'm talking about here. When I'm talking about dissociation, I'm talking about an unhealthy level of disassociation that has to do with being so out of your body and so out of the moment, so divorced from what's happening in the moment that you don't realize what you're doing in the moment. That you are so in your head, so up your own booty hole, that you don't see the fuckery you are conducting through your own hands. And this can happen. This is a thing that can happen. And I'm sure if you've lived long, like, it can happen. This thing happens a lot to people. Spirituality, real spirituality, if your spiritual practice is actually like working and if it's on the right track, because also spirituality is not like, it's a tool. This is a tool. All spiritual practices, all spiritual systems are traps and tools for full psychological integration, for reaching a state of complete psychological integration. That is the entire point, in my opinion. That's the entire point. Forget immortality, forget powers, forget the woo woo and like these animated Hollywood ideas of what magic and spirituality and enlightenment and salvation and these different things are. What it really comes down to is being able to fully be a human being, which most of us, if I'm being so honest, are not most of the time. We spend a lot of time in our heads. We don't spend a lot of time being fully human. And a lot of spirituality, if you have a long term practice, you will start to grok. I hate that word because it's been abused now, but like, you'll start to understand the point of what you're doing a little bit better. Through a lot of disappointment, because a lot of us go into the spiritual in a very childish mentality, assuming that it's going to help you escape life, or that you'll be more powerful than other people, or that you'll be special, or a lot of us go into it for very egocentric reasons. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Um, but my point in this video essentially is not to get into the details of any one spiritual system over the other. That can take up so many lectures. The point of this video is to just give a very general introduction to what is spirituality. And so I'm going to use the example of, say, ritual, specifically the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram from Western magic, because that's a very woo-woo example that people have that has a lot of connotations to it, whether you believe in it or not, or whether you practice it or not, and Buddhist mindfulness meditation, which has a lot of connotations, whether you might practice it or not, too. What you are doing in both these instances, or if you're a Christian praying, going to church every Sunday, like what you're doing is a ritual. What you're doing is a repeated practice, even meditation that you do every day. It's a ritual. You're doing a repeated practice over and over and over again that is training your nervous system to function in a certain, with a certain bias, basically. The human brain loves patterns. The human brain nervous system complex, whatever you want to call this, our perceptions, whatever we are as a thing, loves patterns. You can see this in how scared people get when things are unpredictable, when people are unpredictable. But the point is that we love patterns, and so spiritual practice. The point is to consciously start in injecting conscious patterns into your life, and the most conscious pattern you can inject into your life is consciousness itself, which is the metaphor of spirit itself, which is awareness. But it's not awareness as some heady thing. It's awareness as a embodied presence. And I love that word, embodied presence. I got that from Damien Eccles. But like, it's a great term because it gets, because awareness can seem very abstract. Like, what is awareness? What do you mean? Aware of what? Embodied presence is very like, it's embodied. It's present. There's no need for it to be some woo woo thing. You get it very immediately. It's very straightforward. You don't need la la land language to like understand what you're talking about. You don't need codes or gematria or kabbalistic trees of life to like understand what you're talking about. You understand its presence. It's pretty basic and obvious. And you've been told this your whole life, be in the present moment since you were a child. I tend to look at spirituality from a very cognitive science point of view, so I will address the fact that that is my personal bias, and so a lot of people won't agree with me on this. Like, a lot of people will hate this video because they're going to be like, you're discounting these other worldviews, you have a very materialist, physicalist worldview and scientific worldview, and I'm aware I do, but I think for me, at this point in my journey, that's just what has been the healthiest. Sorry, I'm recording this on Snapchat, so like my camera setup is not good. Point is that, and so my contention, the reason why I take that lens, that framework of approaching the spiritual, and I don't validate the Twilight language, and I don't fall into the assumption anymore, at least, that that it is supernatural or whatever, which already that term makes no sense, because what can be outside of like everything is nature. All of this is nature. This is all nature. This is the dam that the human beaver built, if you know what I mean. Like, beavers build dams, we build whatever this thing is around me, like, so it's all nature. You can't be outside of nature. Like, as far as physics goes, it's nature. What's it called? Point here is that the reason why I've taken that framework is because I believe that at some point in the future, hopefully soon, and I think we're moving in that direction because we've done it with Buddhist mindfulness to some degree, is that we will start to not discredit the traditions and the worldviews that these practices have come out of, because, like I said, people will not agree with me here. A lot of people, most people that are spiritual, do not take the lens that that this stuff is like just nervous system stuff, that there isn't a higher reality. Most people don't take that model. Most people believe and experience that there is a higher reality, and I just don't. That's just not how I am as a person. But I believe that at some point, there will be a time in which you can go to a psychotherapist, or you can go to a somatic therapist maybe, or someone, and this person will act as a modern day shaman. What this means practically, if you remove the connotations out of your head for a second, what this means is that this person, a shaman, will be able to have all this research and clinical understanding of like all these different spiritual practice, all these different spiritual tools from these many different traditions, and how they work on the human nervous system, to be able to give you the tools that you need and teach you the tools that you need to help you in whatever you are specifically dealing with in your life. This is what I'm talking about. This is kind of, I think, the future embodiment of what I am part of here to do as a meat sack, in however long I have to do it. And whether or not I succeed, who knows? Because there's a lot of, the economy's messed up. School's really is like, what's it called? Expensive. Like, there's a lot of things going on at the same time as this. Like, this is not my whole life, of course, um, but I'm recognizing that this, and so basically, that's kind of it. I think that's kind of it. I think that's like a solid place to end this video. Um, is that nervous system understanding of the spiritual. If you're into magic, if you're into that world, think of the tree of life as simply like a path from the very bottom of the nervous system at the feet. Malkuth is the feet, symbolically, metaphorically, not literally, obviously. And then the Kabbalistic, and then Kether is the top. This is not new. This, I'm not saying anything new, but I'm just saying like this model of seeing it as all ways of manipulating the human nervous system, or manipulating consciousness within the nervous system or whatever. The nervous system is, I think, the healthiest model we can take, and then it's what we can also bring into the language of science to then allow us to allow science to actually use these tools in its own framework, while at the same time acknowledging that most of what people consider spiritual will not be able to be studied by this framework. That this framework will only study what is repeatable, which is only really the practices, the prayers, the rituals, the mantras, whatever, the tools, the psychedelics, the chemicals. Like, it can't study everything. It can't validate everything. But the point isn't to do that. The point is to just understand the tools and then democratize those spiritual tools, those spiritual means of production, for as many people as possible, and make it as widespread across the globe as possible, so that this isn't some secret that some guru can sexually assault you over, in some commune because you don't know any better, but so that it's common sense, because this is your birthright. This is, I believe, as we move into a global society, everybody's birthright to understand this is how you work with your own nervous system. Here's a catalog of practices. Try them out in your own life in a safe, healthy way, along with therapy and like being a normal person. Of course, don't lose the mind and body. This triangle, it all works together. If you cut out the bottom two spokes, like, not much of a triangle. It's just a point in empty space. Which is fine if you're dead, but like before you're dead, you still have a mind and body, so be conscious of that. And I think this is like really, really important, because talk therapy, frankly, doesn't do as much as it should. Our modern techniques of therapy only go so far, and we could do better. Honestly, we could just do a lot better, and we have the tools to do better. We just don't understand them yet as well as we could. And yeah, that's all I really want to say. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched it all the way through, comment a star if you've actually watched all the way through. Thank you, and I hope this helped.